Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. In today's video, I'm going to be starting to sand down the cabinet and get it prepped for primer. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so when we left off yesterday, I just got the whole cabinet stripped out, disassembled. And today we're gonna start sanding this down to see how bad the wood is underneath the paint, or what used to be paint anyways. So I think I'm gonna start on the worst side first, because if I get the paint off and it's really bad underneath, I might have to rethink things. So all right, so I'm gonna roll this up on its side to make it more ergonomic for sanding. All right, so just cut that up on my sawhorses, and first time taking a look at the underside of the cabinet. The wood's not bad underneath. Usually, the wood is damaged from being moved around, but it's not it's not too bad. A couple splinters here and there. The corners are pretty solid. The corner joinery. A little bit of chip out right here behind this leg that I didn't see until now. But that's fixable. So at first blush you may look at that and be like, oh man, that's horrible. But I'll get that back to where the glue is still laminated, and then be able to fill that up with Bondo. And it's just that outer layer. So maybe a little bit there too. So what I can do there is I can also get some wood glue in there before I Bondo it, just to get the wood to adhere back together there on that corner, which is probably what I'll do. All right, so I'm going to be using my Festool 150 on this. Also using the 3M extract. If you guys haven't used this paper before, it's amazing. I hate sanding. I loathe sanding wood, and this paper works amazing when paired up with the Festool. All right. All right. So I got that whole left side sanded down to the fresh plywood. A couple, nail holes from when they built the cabinet. And just a closer look here, I had to pretty much take that layer of veneer, that outside layer of maple veneer, right off. Where that planking was, the veneer underneath was not adhered to the cabinet. So I felt it was better to just take it out. Now, there is a slight indent here, which is probably invisible to the human eye. You can see where that planking was, but this is pretty smooth. I'll probably skim it with Bondo to see, first I'm going to see what does this look like when I get a layer of primer on it, and if this shows through, which it may not because it's pretty wide here. If it does show through, then I'll skim it. I'll skim it with Bondo, so it'll be completely invisible. I tried to leave the serial number on, but most of the serial number came off while I was sanding. But anyways, this, I think I'm going to be able to save this. I was skeptical at first because of how bad it was, but it's looking pretty good. So left side, initial sanding complete. I got to sand, all the other sides, of course. And once all that sanding is done, then I'll be taking some wood glue to secure, this corner over here where the veneer is coming off. So I'll secure that. I'll sand it back to where the glue is still good. So you can see the glue is still good down here. So I'll sand that off, and then I'll skim it with Bondo. I'll fill this joinery with wood glue, especially this layer here that's coming off. I'll fill that with wood glue, put a clamp on it overnight, and it'll be as good as new. Another piece of the laminate coming off here, so I'll take some wood glue with a needle and inject it in there and clamp it. Anywhere else where it's the plywood's delaminated, but a little fidgety work, but it'll be worth it in the end. All right, so that's where we are so far. I'm gonna get this flipped over and start working on the other side. All right, let's get started on the other side. All right, so got the right side all sanded down. It's looking pretty good. I have to admit, I got all that planking out, all that surface planking. sanded out. Didn't go through the veneer, or I should say through the layer of the veneer. There is some staining here on the front right corner where that rust is penetrated into the wood. So that's what that gray, dark gray, blackish stuff is there. This corner's got a chip out of it. But what I'll be doing is, again, I'll skim this over, all the nail holes, everything, etc., with some Bondo. But man, I tell you, you can't beat that Festool sander. I got the ETS EC150/5. Can't beat that sander, I tell you. All right, so all I have left now is I gotta get the front and the back around this head area sanded. Some of that will have to be done by hand. And then inside of the cabinet will be after that. But so far, so good. All right, I got the entire outside of the cabinet completely sanded down and ready for filler. Now I'm going to start working on the inside. The inside doesn't have to be perfect. I will be painting it, but I do want to get at least a rough sand on that product that's on there. I'm not sure what they used at the factory, but a rough sand and then coated with primer. We shouldn't have any problems. But I'm going to try to get as much product off as I can to be safe. All right, back to work. All right, so here's where we're at. A handful of sanding pads and a sanding block later, and we got the whole outside sanded and the interior of the cabinet sanded as well, ready to be filled with some Bondo wherever there's any scratches, dents, dings, etc. I'll get all the joinery glued up again. Get that real bad planking that was right there, get that filled as well. Skimmed with Bondo. And it'll be ready for paint. So here's where we're at. Stay tuned for more. All right, now I am working on the plywood underneath that was delaminating. So what I did was I just separated this apart a little bit. I poured some glue in there and some of this Type-On 3, and I'm just gonna encourage it to kind of go down in the crack there and fill the crack up just like that. And I'll wipe off the excess here, but I want to get as much glue as I can down inside the crack. Might look like a mess right now, but that's okay. Just filling that crack right up. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these small clamps and I'm going to clamp that, which will cause some of it to, you can see the glue's in the crack and it's going to come out. So I'll clamp that down, I'll wipe off the excess, and then once it's dry, I'll just give it another light sanding and that will be permanently fixed. All right, I got the clamps on. You can see that it's been squeezed down, so the glue is squeezed out and filled that crack. Now I'm just gonna wipe off the excess and then I'll let that dry overnight tonight. And in the morning, I'll just give that a light sanding to get the excess glue off and we'll be good to go. All right, so I got those edges all glued up and I'm gonna let that sit overnight. And just a tip, glue is not filler and filler is not glue. So I'm resetting the laminate with the wood glue. And then these big gaps here, there's a big gap right there, I will fill those with filler. So all these edges will be filled. Again, it's looking pretty good, but get those filled with Bondo. All right, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some finish nails to each of these corners just to help reinforce the joinery. The nails that are there, you got basically 3 nails to a side, so there's one there, and there's one there. I'm just going to add a couple more to help reinforce that corner joint. And I did put some glue down inside each of the 4 corners, and I put a decent amount, so it's gone down in there. And then when I flip it back over tomorrow, I'll put some down from the top as well. I'd rather be safe than sorry and just get some extra glue in there. So, all right, I'm gonna grab my nail gun and add some extra finish nails into the plywood here, just to help reinforce it. All right, so I got my finish gun. I got 16 gauge 2-inch finish nails inside of there, and I'm just gonna sink some additional nails right in there. And then I will fill that up. So added some, basically double the amount of nails. And tomorrow I will go over those with Bondo and fill those right up. So all those nail holes will be invisible. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add some more on each of the 4 corners, go from opposing directions as well, just for extra strength. All right, so that's, oh, we got one more here. All right, so that's all 4 corners, and I've shot the nails in from both directions. So there'll be extra strength there. And these pneumatic nails, again, they're coated. So when they fire in, they heat up and that activates their coating to basically glue them in there. So extra strong. All right, so next step is to move on to Bondo. And I'm gonna let that wood glue dry. And then we'll get some Bondo mixed up and go from there. All right, good morning, everyone. So back out here in the shop this morning, I let that wood glue cure all night, and now I'm ready to get those clamps off. So you can see here, pretty much all absorbed into that crack there. Now that crack is nice and secure. A little bit of surface glue left behind, and I'll sand that off before I go and fill over this with Bondo, so we have good adherence to the wood, to the raw wood. All right, I'm gonna get the rest of the clamps off, and then we'll go from there. All right, I got the clamps off and just taking a closer look. This is probably the worst spot here where the, the plywood was delaminating. So now that that wood glue is firmed all this up, and these voids here I will fill with Bondo, and then those will be like new once it's been filled. So again, I don't want to try to use wood glue as filler or filler as wood glue. So just a closer look there. All right, so I got all of the overflow glue that was on the surface removed. So it's down to the bare wood all the way around. Any that dripped out of the crack on the side got off as well. So we're down to bare wood everywhere, and it's ready for filler. So next I'll be mixing up some Bondo to get in there. All right, we're back. I got all my Bondo stuff laid out here, just to kind of quickly go through what we'll be using. So I got a can of the Bondo Professional High Bond Filler. That also comes with a tube of the cream hardener, which we'll go over in a minute. I got a palette, which is just an old piece of cardboard for mixing my Bondo. I got a couple of different size Bondo spreaders. I got a putty knife for scooping the Bondo out of the jar, and I got a screwdriver for opening it up. All right, let's go ahead and get started mixing. So I use my screwdriver, get that opened up. Excuse the camera work. All right, I'm just gonna scoop some out. Don't need a lot of this. I'd say that's a good enough to start. All right. All right, so I got my Bondo scooped out onto my palette here, and now I'm gonna add some hardener. Now, this may give some people anxiety is, how much hardener do I add? The good thing is you can't add too much. The more you add, the faster the Bondo is gonna cure. Now the problem is not adding enough. And yeah, I've been using Bondo forever, since I was a kid, wrenching on my cars and fixing scratches and dents on cars, growing up. And the trick that I was taught is, you can basically reference the Bondo scraper color. So if you have your regular old Bondo with the red cream hardener, you'd match it to your scraper. This hardener is blue, unfortunately, so you can't match the blue to the scraper. But I'd say that's a good amount. So I got probably, a quarter cup of Bondo, 2-3 tablespoons of Bondo worth, and I just kind of put it across to start. Now, the big thing is, if you don't put enough hardener, the Bondo won't harden. or if you don't properly mix it as well. So you definitely want to make sure the Bondo is properly mixed and it's the hardener's completely through everything, so there's no more, gray in the Bondo. So with this hardener, you want everything to kind of be a light teal aqua color. Oh, getting a little on there. Don't want that to happen. I'm gonna move over to my workbench before I get some Bondo on the other side of the cabinet, which I don't want. Just keep working it in. Spreading it out. Again, you can't add too much hardener. The more hardener you add, the less working time, pot time you'll have for the Bondo before it hardens. You definitely want to make sure that you get it completely incorporated and that every bit of Bondo has some hardener, because if you don't get the hardener, it will not harden. So that's the last thing we want. All right, that should be good. So I don't know if you can see the color, but it went from a light gray to a darker gray color. All right, and we're just gonna slowly go along and work that Bondo into all of the voids. I'm gonna try not to get any on the underside of the cabinet. Just want to get it into where that plywood has a void, and avoid getting it anywhere you don't want it to be. Worst case scenario, you could sand this off if you got it somewhere where you didn't want it, but on the bottom of this cabinet, it's a texture. So if you get Bondo on that, good luck getting it off. As a matter of fact, I think I might even get some tape and tape that just to be extra safe. Let me get this Bondo that I do have mixed, used up. Sorry about the camera work. I got this thing mounted to me, so it's not the best. All right, I'll just keep going down the side here. And I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna turn off the camera though as I go through. Assume you don't want me watch me fill nail holes. It's all pretty much the same, and then I'll come right back. All right, so first batch of Bondo has been applied. I was able to get this part of the bottom of the cabinet down this side, some of the back, and then down this side here before it started to sit up. And you can see this is the last spot that I did here. You can kind of see how it, I don't know, it's got some texture to it. That's when it started to set up, and I had to stop there. So when you first mix the Bondo, it's about the consistency of a peanut butter, and then once it starts to harden up to say the consistency of like a fudge, then that's when you know, okay, it's time to stop and let that batch cure and move on to the next batch. So I also got the bottom of the cabinet taped up offline here. Tip there, get yourself one of these tape dispensers. Makes it super easy. You get nice, crisp, square cuts, which makes it easier doing the corners when you're taping something up. Just easier all around to have one of these dispensers. I'll see if I can put a link in the description below to that one. So I got the bottom all taped up. I'm ready to mix my next batch of Bondo so I can keep on moving on here. This is a fast setting Bondo, so this is not the normal pink stuff. This is the professional high bond filler. It dries to be sandable in 15 minutes. So this is really fast setting. If it's your first time using Bondo, I probably don't recommend going with the fast setting. I'd probably just use the regular one. Give you a little bit more pot time before it firms up on you. But again, do small batches. That way you're not stressed out, losing it or wasting a bunch of product when it firms up on you. Another tip too is make sure you're cleaning your tools as you go. So you can see I cleaned my scraper off. I cleaned my putty knife off. And to clean it, you can basically use any solvent, any type of paint thinner or any type of solvent. I've always used brake clean. It's just a solvent that I've always used to clean stuff. It does a great job. As you can see, this is clean like new again. So just a tip there, if you have to clean it off. Also, make sure you're doing this in a good ventilated area. I'm here in my garage, my shop. I got the door open to the outside, so we've got good ventilation in here. So just a tip there, because this stuff does give off some VOCs as it's curing. So, all right. So I'm going to mix up my next batch and keep on going. All right. So I just got done the first coat of Bondo all over everything. So do a quick walk around. So you can see everything has been filled with Bondo, including where that big planking was on the side here. I also filled where the plywood layer was completely missing here. So that's just a rough coat. We'll let that cure. And here's where we're at. So next step is to sand this first coat and then give it a final coat touch up as needed to repair any little holes or scratches, etc., that weren't filled on this first coat. So again, anytime you're using Bondo or paint, make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area. So you can see I got my fan going here. I got the door open behind me. I also got my 3M mask as well. And I'll use this mask when I'm sanding as well, just to filter out any particulate that the Festool dust extractor doesn't get. The Festool dust extractor, I tell you, it gets probably 98%. I don't know what the official number is, but it gets the majority of the dust. And then I just, wear the 3M mask just to be safe as an extra layer of precaution. All right, so we'll let that cure. This says it's sandable in 15 minutes. I'm going to go have some lunch, and then we'll come back and get that first coat sanded. All right, I've let the Bondo cure up. So everything's ready to be sanded. Again, this is the first coat. We'll see if we need additional coats, but ready to start sanding. So I'm going to get to that and check back in a little bit. All right, I got that first coat of Bondo all sanded. So looking pretty good. Just a close up here on that. I definitely need to do a second coat You can see here where all that was, there was some gaps there. I need to get a little bit more in there. Corner here. Everything's looking good there. A little bit more here. This is where there was that outside layer of the laminate on the plywood was missing. So definitely need a second coat there. Close up of the corner, looking pretty good. Definitely need a second coat there on that seam. Side of the cabinet's looking good. And then here where that bad planking was, where I had to sand off that layer of the laminate, you can see if I get a little closer there. So need a second coat there as well. Just a light skim coat over that. But overall, it's coming out pretty good. Got that repair here where that was missing. So I'm going to do a second skim coat on this, and then we'll do a final sanding of the Bondo, and it should be pretty much ready for primer. I'll check the inside of the cabinet as well once I get this flipped over, see if there's anything in there, any dents or scratches or anything that needs to be filled. But yeah, looking pretty good. All right, I just got the second coat of Bondo on. Gonna let that cure, and then we'll come back and give that a sanding. So that seam here, got a second coat, some on the corner here, this corner, and that right there. So we'll let that cure, and then we'll come back.
Look, I am your father.
All right, just finished sanding that coat, and everything's looking really good. So you can see all that pitting that was there in that last coat is gone. Everything's looking good. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to getting it perfect. But yeah, everything's looking really good. So what I'll do next is I will get this flipped over and see if there's anything that needs to be filled inside the cabinet or on top, and then go from there. All right, I got the cabinet flipped over and everything's looking good. Do have some nail holes from the factory here, or it looks like pneumatic staple holes. So I'm gonna get those filled. This seam here between those pieces of wood, some nail holes here. So I'm gonna get those filled. A couple here. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, well, you're never gonna see those because the head will be, the head of the machine will be on top of here. So that'll be covered, but some voids here. I've seen it, I'm gonna fix it. And you can get a close look here if you remember when I took the coin door off, I got some filler in there as well. Where that nut was sunk into the wood. So I'm gonna touch that up a little bit. Maybe fill these staple holes as well. But coming along, just got a little bit more to do on this in terms of getting the body filler done, and I'm going to work on that now, and let's get to work. All right, it's been a long day and the sun just set, but let's get inside and take a look what we did here. So got all the nail holes filled all around the top here. Got all the nail holes filled on the playfield supports on both sides, and filled up on the back side of the coin door here. A couple little spots here on the corner. And letting that cure. All right, just a second for a quick tip. So before the Bondo sets up, just take yourself a scraper, and anywhere there's corners like this, just come along and get that out of there. Otherwise, it's going to firm up, and then you're going to have to sand it out. So just take your scraper and a paper towel. Just anywhere where you don't want to have to be sanded, especially in these inside corners. That looks pretty good. Oh. Just right here. See that big chunk of, sorry about the camera work, folks. So just removing a big chunk right here, you can see. So just slice it off with your putty knife, and I'll save you some sanding on the back end. All right, well, let that cure 15-20 minutes, and then we'll come back and sand it and go from there. All right, I got that last coat sanded all on the inside. So all the nail holes that I filled last time have been sanded, and I just put on another coat of Bondo. So I had a nail hole here that was still showing, so I put some Bondo on that. Had a couple of staple holes here on the inside that I filled, and just a little skim there. And I put a little bit more on the inside of the coin door where the bolt holes were there. And we'll let that cure. All right, I got that last final touch-up coat of Bondo all sanded. Got everything vacuumed out. It was a long day, but good progress today. Just do a quick walk around. Inside. So I think that's good for this video. So basically all the body work on the cabinet is done, and this cabinet is ready for primer. So next steps in the next video will be getting this all tacked down, getting it all clean, dust free, and getting the first coat of primer on it. All right, I think that's a good stopping point for today. So thanks everyone for watching. If you like this video, please feel free to like it, subscribe, share, etc. Feel free to subscribe to follow along, and have a great rest of your day.